I'm just going to do another one about these so-called stories about the QAnon tipping off the public that the American military was going to go and rescue all these sex slaves and children from underground tunnels and underground bases. Who built these underground bases and these underground tunnels? Batman? We know Cheyenne Mountain, Colorado Springs, head of NORAD, and that's a base that was built into the mountain with huge blast doors designed to survive nuclear attack. Can you imagine how much money it cost to build that thing? We heard about some of those little tunnels that went from Mexico underneath the U.S. border into, neighboring territory in the U.S. where they were smuggling drugs. But these were very primitive tunnels. Something almost like, in the 1960s, they had this show called Hogan's Heroes, a prisoner of war camp in Germany, Nazi Germany, where the Allies were stationed, basically prisoners, but they made tunnels. But these tunnels that they're talking about, these used enormous excavating machines and incredible amounts of concrete and steel, incredible amounts. And if this is where they're finding sex slaves and children, who built these things? Who were they built for? Who has that kind of money to build these kind of things? It would seem like only the American government would really have the amount of money and the rationale for building them. Because even though a corporation could build them on their own, for what purpose would they spend vast, unbelievable, I couldn't even figure out how many billions of dollars it would cost to build these things. A corporation wouldn't do it because corporations are about profit. And if it's all just for a sex slave, there ain't that much money in it. So these things, if they're true, were built by governments. If it's in the U.S., they were built by the U.S. government. If it's South Korea, well, everyone knows that there's been American military based in South Korea since the Korean War in the 1950s. I don't know where else they're going to say that these underground tunnels and underground bases were. So put that in your meat grinder. The whole story falls apart pretty quick. American patriots working for the U.S. military. They wouldn't know that this was going on if it was really going on. They wouldn't know over all these years. Highly classified, perhaps, what they were doing in there. If it was really going on, people knew. How deep is the rot? I find it very hard to believe that U.S. servicemen would allow that to go on in underground military bases. So the story really breaks down. Who do you trust? The American soldier or Donald Trump? I trust the American soldier. Long history of fighting for their country, fighting for what's right, even though they ended up going on orders of horrible politicians with horrible lies. Iraq, no weapons of mass destruction. General Colin Powell lying about it. Sending the servicemen to go and serve their country on a pack of lies. 9/11. I don't want to go into the conspiracy theories. And it's not a conspiracy. It's not a conspiracy theory, something phony baloney. It was real. It was real. Corrupt politicians, filthy rich people, billionaire class, putting their men into the White House. And then the White House making up enormous lies, sending the American boys off to fight wars that never should have been fought. We know about crisis actors, and we know how Hollywood can dress average actor up into military costume and pretend they belong to this country or that country. Unbelievable stench that's coming from this QAnon thing. Unbelievable stench. If there was anybody I was going to lock up, it would be the Trump administration. That man's a dirty, filthy whore. And the Democratic presidents are no better, all rotten, filthy, disgusting people. It just never seems to end. It never seems to end. People really want to believe sooner or later. People with integrity and truth are going to finally start showing up. I haven't seen it appear yet. It makes me want to barf.